Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, the pre-draft process turns to the next phase, and that is our 2026 NFL Draft TierBuster Series. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we have created exclusive S2S tiers that we combine our film studies, draft projection, traits, characteristics, what we think they're going to be at the next level, but also tie it into the dynasty fantasy aspect of it for these exclusive tiers. There are no other sites out there that combine film studies, NFL draft projection with dynasty fantasy draft projection into one to create these exclusive S2S tiers that we have here at Saturday to Sunday. We're going to kick it off with the quarterbacks. Running backs will be up next, and then we'll end with the pass catchers, the wide receivers, and the tight ends. I'll break down what is in each of the tiers before I discuss the tier, talk about my rankings within the tier, and then at the end, talk about some potential tier jumpers in the next month as I still circle back, watch some more film. We still wait for a few pro days that are out there. So there's still a few things that can move the needle, some small adjustments inside of a tier, or maybe the guy at the top of one tier maybe can sneak into the bottom of the tier right above it, or vice versa. So let's kick it off. Tier one here at Saturday to Sunday for quarterbacks. Our tier one quarterbacks is a first round selection in the NFL draft. In Dynasty, we think they're a late round 1 to mid round 2 Dynasty rookie pick in one quarterback leagues. They are early to mid round 1 Dynasty rookie picks in Superflex or 2 quarterback leagues. We consider this a potential franchise quarterback at the NFL level, and we expect their ETA to be either starting day 1 or by the beginning of year 2 if they have a little bit more of a slow, gradual process. So franchise potential quarterback, starting right out of the gate or sometime during year 1, but worst case scenario, starting by the start of year 2. We know that's very rare. It takes special circumstances for a first round quarterback not to see the field in year 1. Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes, like very unique circumstances for that to happen, and we understand that. So who makes up our tier this year? Very simply put, it's a one quarterback tier at tier 1, and that is Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. I've liked him since last summer. Last summer, he came in as my second or third ranked quarterback. I think it was behind Arch Manning and Lenora Sellers. And all he did this year was check off every box. He's got the size. He's got the frame. He's got functional athleticism and mobility. It's not his strength. It's not a calling card, but he can move around a little bit. He still mostly plays from inside the pocket. Really good accuracy and ball placement. He's got the clutch or the it gene, whatever you want to call it, at his best. When the bullets are flying, stands tall in the pocket, love the back shoulder throws, very intellectual in terms of mental processing, reading progressions, reading coverages, a lot to like about Fernando Mendoza. I don't think he has any elite physical traits. I don't even know if any of his physical traits would characterize as great, but there's a lot of good to very good physical traits. And the whole prop package is someone that I believe could be a franchise quarterback at the next level. I kind of put him on that like Jared Goff to Matt Ryan spectrum. I think he could be a really good, solid top 12, top 15 quarterback like Jared Goff is. Maybe if he hits his ceiling, he could be a Matt Ryan, where Matt Ryan led the Falcons to the Super Bowl, should have won the Super Bowl that year. He was top 7, top 8 for a couple years there when he was at his best for Atlanta. I think that would be Fernando Mendoza's ceiling. So somewhere in that Jared Goff to Matt Ryan spectrum, I think in this draft class, he warrants the first overall pick. I think he'll be selected by the Raiders for sure to kick off the 2026 NFL draft in approximately 1 month. Let's take this back to what constitutes our tier 2 quarterbacks here. Remember, these tiers are exclusive to Saturday to Sunday. They combine our film studies, our characteristics and traits that they possess, what we think they're going to be at the next level, current NFL draft projection, and tie it together to the dynasty fantasy projection as well. So our tier 2, these are round 2 or 3 NFL draft selections. So we think these are guys that are going to get taken on the Friday, second day of the NFL draft. In terms of dynasty, we think they are mid-round dynasty rookie picks in one quarterback leagues. We know quarterbacks are devalued in one quarterback leagues. So maybe like a third or fourth round rookie pick in those one quarterback leagues. We think they're a round 2 dynasty rookie pick in super flex, maybe round 2 to early round 3 in dynasty rookie drafts in super flex or 2 quarterback leagues, especially if they're in a good situation where they're going to get an opportunity to potentially develop into a starter. They'll come off the board somewhere in round 2 or round 3 of dynasty rookie drafts. We think this has starter potential or a high-end backup or spot starter, a player you can win with but lacks consistency. So again, this spectrum, if you're going in round 3, we almost could separate this into 2 tiers, but we kind of wanted to keep day 2 together. If you're taking a guy somewhere in round 3, you probably think they're high-end backup spot starter. If you're taking someone at the top of round 2, you think they have starter potential. Where Tyler Shuck went last year, starter potential. But where the Browns made an investment, that would be more of spot starter, high-end backup when they made their selection last year. When we saw those like Matt Corral and when Malik Willis was originally drafted, those teams did not draft those guys in the 3rd round thinking that they were going to be starters. They thought high-end backup, some upside, spot starter ability. If you think they have starter upside, you're going to get selected early in round 2. We saw Tyler Shuck there. If the Giants don't come back in and take Jackson Dart, he probably falls to the early portion of day 2 last year as well. We saw Jalen Milroe fall to the 3rd round last year as well. Another guy with some potential, maybe a high-end backup, spot starter, unless he developed and progressed in terms of the transition from the Saturday game to the Sunday game. In terms of this year's class, I have 3 quarterbacks in my tier 2, and I'm going to kind of separate it almost to what I just said. We have Ty Simpson out of Alabama. He's that guy who I think is going to go early round 2. He's got starter potential and starter upside traits. Not a lot of experience, but a lot of upside and starter traits there that if you could develop them. If you're talking about looking at Ty Simpson just for the first half of this year, he was probably ticketed for the top 10. Second half of the year, he had some struggles. So I think inside of this tier, there's almost a gap. Ty Simpson is that early 2nd round pick. Think Tyler Shuck last year. Think way back in the day, Andy Dalton or Colin Kaepernick, those guys who went top of the 2nd round. That's where I think Ty Simpson belongs. And then the other 2 guys that I think are day 2 caliber prospects are Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. Those guys fall more into high-end backup, spot starter, unless they develop significantly and fix some of their flaws. So I think Nussmeier and Cole Payton, we're probably talking more at the back end of the top 100, where we saw Jalen Milroe last year, in terms of guys like that, where we saw Dylan Gabriel. That was the Browns quarterback I was talking about. So last year we saw Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, 3rd round. I think this year that's Garrett Nussmeier and Cole Payton territory. Garrett Nussmeier, a more advanced, better prospect than Dylan Gabriel, but can he put it together, get back to what we thought he was going to be? While Cole Payton is like this year's Jalen Milroe. Big, physical, good runner, good athleticism, a lot of development still to go, coming from a smaller school. Obviously, Jalen Milroe wasn't, but Cole Payton is. So I think this year those 2 guys kind of make up the latter portion of tier 2. So Nussmeier, Cole Payton, probably mid to late round 3 guys. And then Ty Simpson is the one who I think early round 2, I think it's a good chance he gets pushed into round 1. I could see a team doing what the Giants did with Jackson Dart and move up to the latter portion of round 1 and take him. I don't think he's going top 10 or top 15, but there's been a lot of buzz this week. Dan Orlovsky's really at the top of the fan club for Ty Simpson, saying he thinks he's the best quarterback in this class, and he thinks a lot of teams feel the same way. We'll see if that's the case. I think someone's going to make the pick in round 1. If he falls to the latter portion of round 1 and a team trades back in, say the Arizona Cardinals or somebody like that from the top of round 2, then I think we know that there was probably a distinction and there weren't a lot of teams that had him maybe as the top quarterback in this class. So tier 2 is interesting because it spans all of day 2. And I do think Ty Simpson is closer to the early portion of day 2, while then Garrett Nussmeier and Cole Payton would be the back end of day 2 at the end of round 3. I already mentioned Nussmeier. Before the year started, a lot of people thought top 10 talent. I think he's fallen off a little bit, but word came out that he mostly played this year with an injury. So if he can get back to that pre-injury form, I think a team could be finding a guy who could develop into an average starter. And then Cole Payton's the wild card, right? He's got the size, he's got the frame, he's got the athleticism, really intriguing prospect, lefty from North Dakota State. We've seen them produce quarterbacks before. So I think a team is going to be intrigued with Cole Payton's upside and potentially invest a pick in him somewhere on day 2 and see what he could develop into. And if he doesn't develop into a starter, I think they still could see an intriguing backup quarterback as well. If we take this to our exclusive tier 3 for our quarterback tiers, these are prospects that we think are going to be taken in round 4 or round 5 of the 2026 NFL draft. In terms of dynasty leagues, I don't think they get drafted in one quarterback leagues. They are probably more watch list guys, but they are late round dynasty rookie picks in super flex leagues, 2 quarterback leagues, leagues with taxi squads or deep rosters. They're developmental quarterbacks that may have a chance to start in a few years down the line, but most likely will develop into a backup or third string quarterback. There's some intriguing traits here. That's where I really classify this tier. Intriguing traits. If they put it all together, you could get this exciting prospect that could turn into a starter, but we know the odds are low. These are outliers. You don't see many quarterbacks become starters from round 4 or round 5. We're talking like Dak Prescott. The list is short, but there's some really interesting names in this tier for this draft class. If I was a team that wanted to get a quarterback in this draft class, but obviously there's not a lot at the top after Fernando Mendoza, I don't think I would take a quarterback on day 2. I think I would attack the strengths of this draft class: wide receivers, edge rushers, off the ball linebackers. And then if I wanted a quarterback, I think I would make an investment in round 4 or 5, because I think there's some intriguing prospects here with high-end physical traits that could be developed. And if they're developed, I think they could be really intriguing players at the next level. Maybe the odds are 5%, 2%, 10%. But I think there's enough high-end physical traits that would make me intrigued with picking some of these guys from this tier. So who is in my tier 3 here? My tier 3 is made up of Drew Lohr out of Penn State, Taylor Green out of Arkansas, and Carson Beck out of Miami. Let's go in reverse order. Once upon a time, Carson Beck looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick in an NFL draft. Before he transferred to Miami. They had a great year. I think he has improved his draft stock. I think some people look at Carson Beck very similar to Garrett Nussmeier. And if that's how people view him, I totally get it. Carson Beck is definitely a guy that could go in round 3. I just think there's too many flaws to his game that I think there's still too much development that's needed from what I saw in terms of the regression. But he does have physical traits. He's got the size. He's got the frame. He's got a big arm. He can make every NFL throw. He can push it in the tight windows. There is a lot to like about Carson Beck in terms of the physical traits. It's, can he develop the rest of that game? The decision-making, the mental processing, the reading coverages, that is where he's had some inconsistencies over the last, 12 to 18 months, and why he's here and not at the top of these rankings where we thought once upon a time Carson Beck would be. Drew Lohr and Taylor Green. Let's start with Drew Lohr. If he would have came out last year after, I believe it was the Rose Bowl, I think there's a real possibility he goes top 5 of the 2025 NFL draft. I think Brian Daboll and the Giants would have been very intrigued with his skill set. I think they might have looked at him at the end of last year and said, maybe he could be a Josh Allen type player. Size, frame, arm talent, goal line runner, tough, physical, competitive. I think they might have made that. But he went back to school. He had a down year. Then he got hurt. And now the questions are now once again there about Drew Lohr. Some teams are going to look at him and think he's quarterback 2 in this class or quarterback 3 with high-end physical traits. And other teams are going to look at him and say the decision-making, the ball placement, the accuracy, the mental processing, the reading coverages, it's just not there. He's a late-round pick. So I've kind of met in the middle because I was intrigued by him last year. I've met in the middle. I think he can go if he goes in the top 100, I wouldn't be surprised because of his physical traits. But I think I'd feel more comfortable at the top of round 4. And that's what I'm saying. If I don't get Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson at the top of round 2, I don't think I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier or Cole Payton somewhere on day 2. I think I'm waiting to day 3, and I'm targeting Drew Lohr, Carson Beck, or Taylor Green out of Arkansas. Nobody had a better athletic performance at the combine than Taylor Green. not Sonny Styles, not any of the safeties, not any of the linebackers, not Jeremiah Love. Nobody had a better and more impressive combine in terms of the physical athletic traits than quarterback Taylor Green out of Arkansas. The size, the frame, the way he could run, the arm talent. He's really intriguing. I brought up Jalen Milroe before. Jalen Milroe went in the 3rd round last year. I understand. Jalen Milroe, much bigger program. But Taylor Green played at Arkansas. He played in the SEC. If you take the schools out of it, and you take the preconceived notions of what people thought Jalen Milroe was his entire career in college, I'm not sure Taylor Green is that far off of what Jalen Milroe was as a prospect. And I think some people might even say he's more advanced in terms of some of the passing aspects of his game. So I think Taylor Green is really interesting. I think worst case scenario, he can be your 3rd quarterback. You could do read option stuff. You could do RPO stuff. He could be a running threat. Maybe if the quarterback thing doesn't work out, he could be one of those conversions. I know right now he wants to be a quarterback, and I think he should get every opportunity to be a quarterback. But he's got a rare skill set that if for some reason 2-3 years down the line, the quarterback development just doesn't happen for him, you can think about making him a tight end, a gadget player, a wide receiver, Taysom Hill-like. You have the ability to do that stuff with Taylor Green. That's how special of an athlete he is. So to me, I'm waiting on quarterback. I'm not taking Nussmeier in round 2 or Cole Payton at the top of round 3. Now, if those guys fall to round 4, sure, then they're all in the mix there, and you can make the case that they're a better pick. But if we're talking about draft slot, and we're talking Nussmeier or Cole Payton is somewhere round 2 to early to mid round 3, I'm waiting to round 4, round 5, and I'm taking Drew Allard, Taylor Green, or Carson Beck. Now, maybe those guys don't fall there, right? All it takes is one team to be intrigued with. Maybe a team looks at Taylor Green, like the Seahawks looked at Jalen Milroe, and picks him in the 3rd round. Maybe a team looks at Drew Allard and thinks last year he would have been a top 5 pick. We can't let him fall to, the 4th round. We're going to take him somewhere in the 3rd round. Maybe someone really liked Carson Beck when he looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick, and they still think that he has that in him. They might go in the top 100. So I think all of these guys, Allard, Green, and Beck, all have a shot to be in the top 100. But I don't think we're going to get all of them, and Ty Simpson, and Nussmeier, and Cole Payton, and Fernando Miller. We're not getting 7 quarterbacks in the down quarterback class in the top 100. I think we might only get 2. And maybe Nussmeier or Cole Payton have a shot. If we get more than 4 quarterbacks in the top 100, I would be stunned. I think 2 are locks, obviously Mendoza and Simpson. I think Nussmeier and Cole Payton have the best chance, but I don't even know if both of them are going to go. So I'd be surprised if it's more than 4. Maybe Allard replaces Nussmeier or Cole Payton. Maybe Carson Beck does. Maybe someone falls in love with Taylor Green. But I think those 7 quarterbacks, I think 4 of them have a shot to go in that day 2 range. And I think the other couple will be there and probably go off the board somewhere in round 4. So that's kind of how I see my 3rd quarterback tier. Last tier, tier 4. These are late round picks. So we're talking round 6, round 7, or UDFA prospects. These are practice squad or 3rd string quarterbacks or guys that we had limited exposures to. There's some guys on this list that intrigue me, but I couldn't put any more in the top 3 tiers. I don't think we're getting any. I don't even know if the 7 guys I mentioned are going in the top 5 rounds. But let's talk about who makes up my tier 4. My tier 4 starts with Baron Morton out of Texas Tech, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor, Miller Moss out of Louisville, Diego Pavia out of Vanderbilt, Luke Altmaier out of Illinois, Mark Gronkowski out of Iowa, and Jalen Daniels out of Kansas. I could separate this tier again. Guys who I think are going to get drafted. Morton, Klubnik, Sawyer Robertson. I think those guys are all getting drafted, which would bring this quarterback class to 10 quarterbacks. If I was projecting the NFL draft right now, I would have 10 quarterbacks being selected. I think Morton has his fans. Todd McShay's been talking him up. Chris Sims just, I think, had him in his top 5. There's aspects of Morton's game that are intriguing. There are things about his game that I think a lot of people haven't really studied him, but I think there's things to like about Morton. Size and frame is just average. Athleticism is just average, but I think he's got good arm talent in terms of his velocity and strength. I think he's got good accuracy in the short to intermediate range. He can throw on the move. He can throw from different arm angles. He can play off structure. I think he shows good toughness and pocket presence. There's some things about Morton I want to see him improve, handling pressure, some inconsistency in terms of his footwork and accuracy. If he can clean up some of those issues, he's an interesting prospect. I think he comes off the board probably round 6. If he sneaks into round 5, I wouldn't be surprised. If he goes ahead of Taylor Green or Drew Allar, I wouldn't be stunned because those guys are projects. Somebody might look at Morton and say, you know what? We want Morton because we think he can be a solid backup quarterback. And we're not sure Allar or Green could ever be that. We might acknowledge that they have higher end physical traits, but if they don't show development in some of the other aspects of quarterbacking, people want their backup quarterbacks to be good decision makers, can run the offense, can keep it on track. Somebody might look at Green and Allar and not think that's not what they offer. They offer these high-end physical traits, but a lot of development needed. So if Morton goes ahead of Green and Allar, I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't do that. I think Morton's more of a 6th-round guy because I don't think he has enough physical traits to ever profile as a guy who could develop into a starter, where I think Allar, Green, and Beck do have the physical traits. I think Cade Klubnik still gets drafted because this is a guy that some people were talking about as a top 10 pick before the year started. Some team is going to say, we had this guy ranked as a top 10 pick before the year started. He's too intriguing. He's got good athleticism. He's got good arm talent. Everything went wrong at Clemson this year. Let's get him in the building and see if we can develop him into more than a 3rd-string quarterback. And I think Sawyer Robertson, good size, good frame, good arm talent, traditional pocket passing quarterback, but offers a skill set that I think teams would be intrigued with. So I think Sawyer Robertson, Cade Klubnik, and Morton all get drafted. Those would kind of be where I kind of cut the line. And then I think guys like Miller Moss, Diego Pavia, Luke Altmaier, Gronkowski, and Jalen Daniels, they're probably UDFAs. Maybe one or so sneaks in the 7th round. I think Luke Altmaier would be my choice if I had to pick one. So I think Altmaier would be my pick there if I had to pick one from the lower half of that tier to maybe get drafted. I think the rest of them, Moss, Pavia, Gronkowski, and Daniels, are all priority free agents, camp invite, stuff like that. So if you weren't following along, my overall ranks: Fernando Mendoza 1, Ty Simpson 2, Garrett Nussmeier 3, Cole Payton 4, Drew Allar 5, Taylor Green 6, Carson Beck 7, Barry Morton 8, Cade Klubnik 9, Sawyer Robertson 10, Luke Altmaier 11, Miller Moss 12, Diego Pavia 13, Mark Gronkowski 14, Jalen Daniels 15. That's my 15 quarterbacks I have ranked right now for the 2026 NFL draft. If we're talking about guys that I think could be tier jumpers, and there's not a lot of time left. These tier now with the combine so late, and then I give some time for free agency to kind of settle out before I kind of start this series. We only got about a month left, but there's still possibility that there could be some movement. I really want to go back and watch more of Ty Simpson's film from earlier in the year, compare it to the second half of the year, and make an assessment of whether or not I want to leave him at the top of tier 2, or if I want to put him in tier 1 as a locked in, loaded round 1 quarterback. So I do think Ty Simpson could be a tier jumper. When I go back and study more of that film and try to watch almost every game of his, I could see a scenario where I take him from where he is now and I bump him up into my tier 1. So he'd be my first quarterback that could be a tier jumper in the next month of this. And I will do a episode the week of the draft, final rankings, tier changes, and I will talk through my thoughts if anybody has moved. But Ty Simpson is one that I could see myself moving in to the tier 1 and think he's a round 1 quarterback. Right now, like I told you, my day 2 is kind of spread out, but Simpson is right at the tippy top of tier 2, and I think he's a top 5, top 10 pick in round 2. So maybe I move him in and say, you know what, he should go in the 20s. He should go in the late teens. That's where I think he warrants going. So he could be a potential tier jumper in this class. If I look at my tier 3 and say, do I have enough belief in any of these quarterbacks to hit their development that I should move them from tier 3 to tier 2 and think that they're a top 100 pick? Yeah, I think it would be Drew Allard and Taylor Green. I'd really want to go back and watch Drew Allard's second half of last year more in depth. I know that's what I mostly watched for my thoughts on him before the season started, when I thought he was a first-round quarterback. But this year obviously changed the narrative on Drew Allard a lot. But if you look at him and you go back and study the whole body of work and you study what people thought about him at this time last year, he was looked at as a slam dunk top 100 pick. He was looked at as probably a top 15 pick, with some people thinking he could have been top 5 or top 10 if he declared. So if I'm going to take a quarterback from my tier 3 and jump him up to tier 2 and say, you know what, I think he warrants going top 100, it would be Drew Allard out of Penn State. And then my last potential tier jumper, and I brought him up a little bit, at a tier 4, who is late round 6, round 7. Who is there a guy there that I say, you know what, I feel a little bit more intrigued about him. I think he should go in the top 5 rounds. I think he should go up to tier 3 and be a round 4, round 5 pick. Go somewhere early day 3, because either he could be a quality backup, spot starter. Yeah, I think that's Morden out of Texas Tech, because I think he brings enough to the table in terms of athleticism and arm talent, has shown the ability to run a functional offense, that I think he would be intriguing for a team that maybe wants to make an investment in round 4 or round 5 and not shooting for upside, not shooting for ceiling, but just shooting for solid high-end backup spot starter ability. And if that's what you want, I think Morden could be a guy who warrants going in round 4 or 5. I usually keep 4 or 5 more for higher ceiling type prospects, higher physical traits, and that's why Allard, Green, and Becker in there. But there's a lot of aspects of Morden's game that maybe warrant him jumping up into that tier above where I have him, just because I think he's going to be a quality backup. He might have spot starter ability. And if that's the case, he probably should be a round 4, round 5 pick and not a round 6, round 7 pick. So Ty Simpson potentially tier jumping from 2 to 1. Drew Allard potentially being the tier jumper from 3 to 2. And Morden potentially being a tier jumper from tier 4 to tier 3 is how I would kind of see that. So there it is, guys. My 2026 NFL Draft quarterback rankings and tiers. 15 quarterbacks ranked, spread out over the 4 tiers I have them. Talked about their physical traits, where I think they're going, what I'm intrigued about their games. Talked about potential tier jumpers for each of the tiers who could jump up to the tier above it as I finalize things over the next month here of the pre-draft process. If you are enjoying this content, now's the time more than ever, guys. I'm going to keep asking. Please consider getting over to the website, S2S Football. Fastest and easiest way to get there. $9.99. You get access to all of our premium notebooks. I know there's so much great stuff out there. We are like a week away from the release of Matt Wallman's RSP, arguably the best offensive skill draft guide you will find out there. Nothing is more in-depth than that. We are probably 2 weeks away from the beast, Dane Brugler, the best overall NFL draft guide you will potentially ever see in terms of the media. Make sure you buy Matt's work. Make sure you get the athletic subscription just for Dane's thing itself is worth the price of it. But if you've been a long-time listener of S2S, if you're into the dynasty aspect, if you like the podcast, please consider getting over to the website. S2S Football, fastest, easiest way, $10. If you've bought it in the past, consider purchasing it again. If you're new to S2S and you like the podcast, consider checking it out. If you've been a long-time listener but never purchased it, consider checking it out for the first time ever. If you bought it in the past but haven't bought it yet this year, if you could buy it again, it would be greatly appreciated. It's the lifeblood of what we do here. If you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy listening to my takes, every dollar we get from the sales of the premium notebooks goes right back in the server fees, subscription fees, everything I need to just do this on the side for the love of how much I love all things NFL draft. You get the scouting notebook and the rankings notebook immediately. You get the draft projections notebook about the second week of April. So much great content in there. So much great content after the draft in the rankings notebook, your dynasty rookie rankings, IDP rookie rankings, overall dynasty rankings with the rookies blended in. I keep that going throughout the whole summer. You will find value in it for $9.99, and it dramatically helps us out. So hopefully you consider checking it out and purchasing it for us. Next up in the TierBuster series will be the running backs. Okay, we'll get to that later this week or over the weekend to hit your podcast feeds the beginning of next week. On behalf of my sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.